Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. On today's show, Duane Taves visits with John Reich to talk about using new crops and creating new ingredients. Then it's this week's Kansas soybean update. Up next, Duane Taves and Martin Barbery talk about the USDA Risk Management Agency and what they offer. Then it's this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update, and we'll end with some plain talk featuring Kyle and Duane. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Up first today, Duane Taves visits with John Reich about why we should use new crops and what they have to offer.
Duane Taves joining you once again here on Ag AM in Kansas, and an opportunity to catch up with John Reich with the Foundation for Farm and Ag Research, and talking about some things within the industry. Society is looking at different options for providing nutrients to a population of people, John, and recently at a conference you had an opportunity to talk about some of those things with those in attendance.
Yeah, so I'm here today talking about just the potential for plant-based diets. And at the foundation I work at, we really focus on scientific research. And we're interested in terms of this space in basically tapping nature's potential and tapping the potential of nature to create more healthy and nutritious foods that also allow farmers to thrive and be profitable.
We think about those opportunities, a number of people are concerned because we're talking about a change from status quo from where we've been. Change isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it will require some growers to make some different plans for the future.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. But we really view crop diversification as a strategy going forward that can help many people. So currently, I'll step back and say that there are tens of thousands of plants that we can be using in our system, and we currently only tap the potential of a few of those crops. However, we think that if we shift the focus a little bit to expanding what we can include into our food system, it can really help not only create more nutritious foods, but also create a diverse array of ingredients that companies can be using to produce more nutritious foods.
We think about where we've come in agriculture, 50 years ago, farms and ranches were really diversified, and it had a number of different components that made that up. We kind of got into a monoculturalist society with some of the technologies that we got. It appears that we're making kind of a turn now, looking at a more diverse mix to provide not only better resources for humans and consumption of those foods, but financially for them as well.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think that where we stand at this point in time, that there's a lot of technology that's been developed that's been applied to just a few of the crops that we're using now. We think that we stand at this kind of turning point where the technology that's out there can now be applied to create a more diverse system, and we think that will eventually lead to benefits for farmers and benefits for the companies that are trying to sell products.
We think about research, and that really is the focus of the organization that you work with. Those things don't happen overnight, and it takes investment dollars to come up with those solutions.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And the areas that we're talking about right now are areas that are extremely risky. And they're risky in the sense that they take long-term investments and they take an enormous amount of investment. So the industry can't really focus on them in terms of short-term outcomes. And we think that through partnerships with industry and academics and foundations and governments and whatnot, that we can really begin moving that conversation forward.
Final thoughts from your perspective, John, on a new opportunity on the horizon for growers?
Yeah, I think there is a huge potential opportunity in crop diversification. I would really love to see markets created for new types of crops that farmers can then begin growing that make them more resilient to shocks, whether they're from climate or pests or et cetera. And that those opportunities also lead to creating a more nutritious and healthful system that benefits consumers, but that can also lead to, a diverse array of ingredients that food companies and others can be using.
Our thanks to John Reich with the Foundation for Food and Ag Research joining us on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Dwayne. Folks, come back after these messages for this week's Kansas Soybean Update.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Guy Allen, senior economist with the International Grains Program at Kansas State University, joins us. And Guy, for those who are not familiar with you, talk about some of your roles with IGP.
My role here is to promote the export of U.S. soybeans around the world and to help people buying or procuring and purchasing that grain to do it more efficiently, more effectively, and to understand the value proposition when they're buying U.S. soybeans over other possible origins.
And I know that keeps you busy, not only with there at the IGP, but going out and speaking on behalf of the soybean industry.
Yes, we have quite a few opportunities, particularly through Kansas Soybeans and U.S. Soybean Export Council, in promoting soybeans to overseas buyers. We have a number of trade teams that come through fairly frequently, and we get to spend anywhere from a couple days to a whole week in helping them better understand U.S. markets, the U.S. supply chain to their particular destinations, and how the value of U.S. soybeans can be better evaluated and make us more competitive in those global markets.
We're also joined by Sean Thiele, Associate Director with the International Grains Program Institute at Kansas State University. And Sean, talk about your role as Associate Director of IGP.
My main role is to oversee the workings that are taking place between all of the different aspects at IGP and really being that point of contact for not only the Kansas Soybean Commission. So IGP's mission is to provide technical, research-based training that benefits industry professionals worldwide while enhancing and growing the market preference for U.S. grains and oil seeds. So to do that, we focus on Guy Allen's area, but also my area, which is flour milling and grain processing, technical expertise, and another content expert we have, Carlos Campabadal, who focuses on feed manufacturing and grain storage. So between the three of us, we work together to drive the mission of IGP, promoting U.S. grains and helping U.S. farmers who do so much to support us with our mission. Without the support of the Kansas farmers and the Kansas commissions, IGP would not exist as we are today. So we have a close working relationship with the Kansas commissions and drive technical programs and really share that expertise on the amazing quality that comes from U.S. grains, U.S. soybeans, and all the work that goes into that.
Sean Thiele, Associate Director with the International Grains Program, and Guy Allen, Senior Economist with the IGP, joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Stay with us here on Farm Factor. After the break, we'll hear from Dwayne Taves and Martin Barbary.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about employee safety and work comp coverage. On your farm, do you ask your friends to come help? Are they considered employees or neighbors helping neighbors? Did you know that you can be held responsible just as if it's a work comp accident? Give me a call. We can discuss. 316-945-6733.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
This segment brought to you by SureCrop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now we learn about the USDA Risk Management Agency with Dwayne Taves and Martin Barbary.
Dwayne Taves joining you once again here on Ag AM in Kansas, and an opportunity to catch up with Martin Barbary. He is the administrator of RMA at USDA. And Martin, we think about opportunities in agriculture. New Farm Bill is kind of in the mix, if you will, but risk management obviously a key component of that, and that's what growers wanted, and USDA is going to provide.
Yeah, and Congress has been very clear that they want to make risk management a proper, an important part of a producer's risk management, and our policies do that. Congress did some things in the 18 Farm Bill that strengthened our crop insurance thing. There's a lot of things we're still working on. Obviously, we're not ready for timelines and this and that. We got our work plans in place and getting those things out. There's a few things we can talk about that were in the Farm Bill that we did have ready to go, so we can talk about those.
Specifically, some of those points of interest for growers across the country, Martin.
Yeah, one of the things that the growers have been asking for a few years is a multi-county enterprise unit where the grower has an enterprise unit in one county. Maybe they've got a few fields in another county that by themselves wouldn't qualify for an enterprise unit. They can now bring those in underneath that enterprise unit and get the enterprise unit discount for all those entire acreages. Better deal for the producer. He gets a better premium subsidy, better deal for the government. It's a little less risk. That's why the premium's a little less. But it's just a good deal for everybody.
Talk about flexibility. Really, it's kind of been built into that with some of the changes in that regard.
Yes, absolutely. We want to be as flexible as we can, and yet we have to, I'm always preaching, we have to be actuarially sound because the American taxpayer funds this program, and so we want to do that. Some of the other one of the things that's kind of been a focus at RMA the last couple of years, and Congress really pushed it, is the specialty crops. We're really expanding our coverage of specialty crops. I met with some strawberry growers yesterday trying to figure out if we can get a better policy for them down here in Florida. So, just things that's what we're doing. We're reaching out to these folks and trying to see what we can do to help them. I'm a farmer myself, so I understand it from their perspective. I think that helps me here. And, and we did in our, we have 10 regional offices across the country. And so in those regional offices, one of the things in the Farm Bill was we were supposed to have a specialty crop liaison. We already have those in place, so I think that will help us start expanding these coverages as fast as we can.
There were some changes as well and flexibility and choices of what kind of coverage you were going to have, not necessarily dictating the entire life of the Farm Bill this time around.
Yeah, that's more with the FSA side, but sometimes that does play into us as well. We're still working through those different aspects of how we make that work.
Other issues, Martin, from your perspective from RMA for growers to consider as they work with FSA and utilize those programs that you administer?
Yeah, we want to make sure that producers have access to all the knowledge they need to understand our programs. There's a lot of knowledge on www.rma.usda.gov, but also I think producers, find yourself an agent, and there's an agent locator on our website as well. Find yourself an agent if you haven't had crop insurance, or make sure that you're talking to someone who understands your area and your needs, and I think that's really important. I think that's what makes our policies work a lot better.
I know the Crop Insurance Industry Association, they put out numbers annually. The coverage of what we're getting insured across the country continues to rise at a very high percentage of those acres in the country now are covered.
Yes, absolutely. We had about $109 billion in liability coverage in 2018, which is, in my mind, is pretty huge. It keeps going up. We also, at the same time, we're reducing our expenses. We're becoming more efficient in delivering those policies. Our our cost per policy at RMA has gone way down on delivery. So, we're doing it as efficient as we can and as effectively as we can.
Our thanks to Martin Barbary, administrator of RMA at USDA, joining us on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Dwayne. Come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. The wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulders sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. He said, well, I have to do surgery. I thought, I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio. Gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Farm Bureau update.
Today we are talking about planting decisions. Lots of information to go over, which we will share. We've got some stuff on our website.
I do want to touch a little bit on the market facilitation program. It was newly announced. The key couple of things are they added a few other crops. Normally we look at what I call Farm Bill Title I commodity programs. They've added alfalfa to that. Sorghum is listed, so we don't know if that means sorghum silage also. And a lot of other smaller crops like lentils are involved in that. And kind of one of the key things is payments are not going to be dependent on the crops you plant, but they're basically going to be a county level rate based on the county. So it will be paid on the, let me see, I'll just read it here. Instead, the payment is based on a single county rate multiplied by a farmer's total plantings to those crops in 2019. But your total payment eligible plantings cannot exceed 2018 plantings of those same crops. Bottom line is, you kind of want to make sure that list of crops you're planting as many acres this year as you did last year. Now that opens up a lot of questions, because what if I'm in western Kansas and I've got fallow? What if last year I fallowed quite a bit and now I've got more plantings? I won't get paid for those. Or if last year I planted a lot of crops and this year I have a lot of fallow. So there's some mixed, some unanswered questions. Farm Bureau has written to USDA. We want to get some clarification on how fallow will be impacted, on how they're going to look at sorghum, whether sorghum silage is part of that or whether sorghum hay is part of that. We need more clarification. We haven't got that clarification.
Stay with us. We'll be back after the break with Plain Talk.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
SureCrop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we'd be glad to answer it and work with you.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome back. Now let's see what Kyle and Dwayne are up to today on Plain Talk.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Plain Talk, with the man who understands that if you cross a bridge before you get to it, you pay the toll twice. Dwayne Taves. You ever heard that expression?
I have not.
Don't cross a bridge before you get to it?
Well, it makes sense.
That's just go. And this could be one you could learn to live by, little boy. Yeah, it's like don't be worrying about stuff before it's time to worry
before it actually happens.
Now, did you understand? If you cross the bridge before you get to
twice.
it, you pay the toll twice.
I got it.
All right,
makes sense.
Well, we finally got one.
I'm trying to, I had an interesting conversation with one of my daughters the other day.
All right.
We were at a zoo, and I was having fun.
You like zoos?
I like zoos. My father did not take me when we were kids because he thought they smelled bad.
I agree with your dad.
And so never did when I was a kid. And my wife's family are big fans of going to zoos around the center part of the country. And I've picked it up as marrying into the family, and I was having a lot of fun. Normally they have statues.
Taunting things or what?
No, not the animals, but they'll have like bronzes at this particular zoo, a round of different animals, and like one was like geese in flight, and I stood up behind it and did a little arm flapping like I was flying with the geese, and my daughter was laughing at me, and she said, you really appear to be having a lot of fun. And I said, I kind of took a lesson from my boss, which would be
That'd be me.
That'd be you.
Uh-oh.
And I said...
You always wonder what you're going to pick up on. And
I know.
Can't.
You're going to be happy about this one. I said, I have made the decision. I am not going to be a grumpy old man. And my daughter kind of looked at me. I was a little shocked. And I was like, no, I'm consciously going to make the decision not to be a grumpy old man. And so, as a 50-plus-year-old man in the zoo making... arm wing flaps by a...
Well, exactly. That's just
bronze.
wrong. A man your age should know you can't do that.
Yeah, and
you
it's
couldn't
like...
do that.
Yet the grandkids thought it was a hoot. My kids were a little shocked.
Is there any chance that you would be arrested doing that?
Zero.
I
didn't harm anything.
Exactly. You didn't hurt a darn
I didn't even
thing.
hardly trample down the grass. There was like
but
wood
you
chips.
Did trample
there was
it.
wood chips around.
You trampled the wood chips.
I stepped on the wood chips.
Well, I will tell you, being arrested isn't all that bad anyway. I mean, it's great show material.
And you
meet an interesting group of people you haven't been around in a while.
Absolutely.
So it's not that bad.
Your fact or fiction question of the day, Kyle Bauer. The Infinity Chili.
Okay.
Declared the hottest chili in the world. Fact or fiction?
Now, can I ask a question? If it's Infinity Chili, is that a chili...
like a hot pepper.
It's a hot pepper. Chili pepper.
Chili pepper.
It's not a type of
not
chili.
Not a type of chili that you cook.
Okay, the Infinity.
The Infinity
chili.
Chili.
I'm sure it's one I haven't heard of. And Infinity, because I know they have numbers on them on how
that's
hot
the
they
scale.
are.
I can't remember the name of that scale.
The hot chili scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm saying, okay, so Infinity might be clear out to the end of that, so I'm going to go with fact.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
The Infinity Chili. Hottest chili in the world, declared back in 2011. Grown in Grantham in the UK. Now, that surprises me a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think about the UK being
Do you ever raise
pepper
chili
people.
peppers?
I have not. I've known people that do. The biggest concern that I have with raising and consuming your own chili-type peppers, I have a good friend that had some that he raised, and he said, oh, these aren't too hot. And he had stuffed them with cream cheese and some other stuff and grilled them. First one was delightful. I mean, it was a little warm, but it didn't set your head on fire. Same exact looking chili. The next one I took off the grill, had me calling for the intestinal fire department.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.